welcome, and thank you for coming. I'm Gloria Kubishak,
And I represent the League of Women Voters, and it is our pleasure to co-sponsor this event with Macmillan Library, River Cities Community Access, the Mayor's Office. We are pleased that all of you could make it tonight. And thank you, River Cities Community Access, who will be broadcasting this on Solaris Channel 3 and Charter 985. There's just one housekeeping item that I want to mention before we get started, and that is League of Women Voter members are in the aisles, and they will take the questions that you have prepared after the mayor's address. And that's all you have to do is raise your hand with that question card in your hand, and they will be happy to collect it from you. One other thing we'd like to remind you to put your name on that card, as well as possibly a phone number or an email address, because if time does not allow us to get to all the questions, then the mayor will be able to contact you personally. So without any further ado, it is with pleasure that I introduce to you the Honorable Mayor Zachary Vruwink, who will be presenting his third annual State of the City Address.
Thank you. Thank you, Gloria, and thank you for that introduction. Good evening, everybody. It's really an honor and a privilege to be in front of you again for the third annual State of the City Address. Before I begin, I want to express again, as Gloria had indicated, an appreciation to our hosts and sponsors, the League of Women Voters of the Wisconsin Rapids area, and Macmillan Memorial Library, who have graciously opened up their space tonight to host us. It is both an honor and a privilege to serve the great city of Wisconsin Rapids as your mayor, and to have the opportunity to discuss the state of our city, which I'm pleased to report has grown healthier in this last year. The progress, successes, and initiatives that I will outline this evening represent a total team effort. Support and action by our City Council is essential to making plans and action a reality. I'd like to acknowledge Council President Chad Worrell, Alderpersons Andrew Kirkpatrick, Jim Stack, Scott Kellogg, Greg Hepp, Todd Furkey, Terry Dolan, and Tom Rayome for the outstanding work that they have accomplished and will continue to accomplish for our city. Please join me in expressing appreciation to all of our City Council members. We owe them a great deal of gratitude for taking the leap to run for city office and for their service to our fine city. Also this evening, we have brought City Hall to you again. Members of our city management staff are here to interact with you and provide information and answer your questions about the various ways city departments continue and always will be working on your behalf. We owe a great deal of gratitude to all of our city employees for their unwavering commitment to our city. Their commitment allows city government to deliver the services that sustain a high quality of life for you and your families. City employees here tonight, I invite you to please stand. Attendees, please join me in recognizing, I know there's some of you in the audience, please join me in recognizing these committed people for their work on behalf of our city. And some back there and some across the room. Thank you. My desire tonight is to present my vision of three elements that, from the perspective of your mayor, comprise a healthy Wisconsin Rapids. When we think of health, we often first think of our individual or human health. And while that is important, tonight, let's think of health in broader terms. At the center of this vision is economic health, organizational health, and civic health. Much like that of the human health, our mental, our physical, and spiritual believing in something greater than ourselves. From these three areas flow the components that nourish a healthy body and a healthy body of involved citizens of our community. And to ensure the most ideal and lasting benefit to the community, these three must perform and be cared for together. Achieving a healthy state that is in balance requires us to treat the symptoms and address the impediments preventing us from realizing our full potential. Tonight, I look forward to diagnosing, as it were, those areas requiring further attention and sharing what we have done and what we plan to do in these three areas of overall community health and well-being. Let's start with our economic health. As we continue to reimagine and transform our local economy from one that is less dependent largely on paper manufacturing to one that is more diverse, one that continuously attracts investment and the talent of people that fuel it. An important consideration to achieving this is without quality of options to live, lay our head at night, and connect with others, it's difficult or nearly impossible to attract that talent. I hear it from our existing employers, many of whom have a global presence, of whom may create opportunities for that talent elsewhere, and if their recruitment needs continue to go unmet. This is and may continue to be a missed opportunity for Wisconsin Rapids, and as demographic data indicates, both for our state and much of small-town America. Leading this is the millennial generation, those 25 to 34-year-olds who also have bachelor's degrees, many of them are higher education, and their migration to more urbanized places. But this storyline isn't new to us. In fact, for decades now has bled citizens, not just here, but for smaller cities like ours everywhere. This trend reflected on by demographer Brookings stating, at this point, the prognosis does not look good for much of small-town America. This isn't to say we're out of the running. In fact, it's much more of a reality check than anything else. And frankly, we don't have to accept it. So it begs a question, what is our strategy? Small towns like ours will have to hustle to recruit and retain that follow. Experts say, and local planners, as the American Planning Association urges, must mimic the appeal of urban city centers by creating density. Walkable neighborhoods and traditional downtown centers have been described by millennials and those others from other generations that are escaping to more urban areas as key to making a community desirable place to live. While the case of the demographic that is most concerning is the millennials, it isn't just millennials. It's all talent. So if we are to get serious about addressing the brain drain and attract the urban escapees who will continue to start small businesses and fuel others, we need to rev up our sales pitch. Convincing adults that they can't just live cheaply here, but also enjoy elements of the metropolitan area that is effectively calling their name is just a start. We also know that it's more than just a good sales pitch. It will require long-term planning and a strategy. Therefore, when I talk about economic development, you won't hear me say things about the traditional industrial smokestack chasing recruitment strategy of yesterday. In fact, that is much to the contrary of what we're really working to achieve. And this takes me to the first element of that strategy, housing. Not just any housing, but market rate, waterfront, center community housing. I just mentioned that to emulate a sense of place that is attractive in more urban settings, we must incorporate density here, right in our city core. We have the opportunity to reinvent what is still today referred to as many as our downtown. Reinvention will also require a reimagination and a change in the overall perception from what downtown is, or should I say isn't, to what it can become. By leading with housing and the permanent residency base that is created as a result, a new demand model for support services like restaurants and retail is created. As a result, new development and investment becomes easier with just a little demand and a little space. Much like it did in the inception of our city, the Great Wisconsin River represents our heart, ever pumping or flowing life through our city, as does the surrounding waterfront district, as I like to call it. This requires continued focus on the many opportunities to leverage it. Housing alone isn't a silver bullet and is only one element contributing to the overall health of our community. Employment drivers are, of course, key. A growing medical community, as our hospital's new owner assesses its growth trajectory. Anchor institutions such as our own Mid-State Technical College and neighboring 2- and 4-year universities, an increasing emphasis on research in the agricultural space and cellulosic industries, and our educational software sector all play a role in the future employment in this community. There is no doubt that those institutions and industries have and will continue to need talent to support their operations and carry out their missions. So know that connecting talent, recruitment, and retention experiences as it relates to our employment drivers, plays an important role in our housing strategy. Not to forget, when we layer on the compounding factor that in the future, with the projected shortage of talented and skilled workers leaving the workforce in tremendous numbers in the coming years, it is safe to say it's our moment in time. For some time now, we have heard that innovative businesses and startups and investment follow talent. The traditional economic development strategies of chasing smokestacks has and will not result in sustainable economic growth here. And that's why a key element to attaining greater economic health comes as a result of leveraging and retaining what we have as a means to attract and retain both business and talent that make them flourish. What work is already underway in the area of capitalizing on the livability of our city's core? This year, we've been fortunate to have community partners accelerate the redevelopment process. But in order to ensure their success, this process has to involve residents to participate, to share their ideas. One such example of public and private connectedness over the last year, and will continue this year, is the Tribune Building. From purchase to planning to design, this process embraced the interests of our community. The Tribune Building process has been an inspiring one, highlighted by decision-making and planning led by you, our city residents. This process of guiding redevelopment on the west side of the river has great promise to attract millions of dollars in investments to our community. I'm moved by the time that so many in this community have invested to support this project. Beyond the notable resident engagement components, of great importance to note is the enterprise and business aspects of the project. By creating space for entrepreneurs to start and or to grow, this will be sure an aspect to watch. And finally, how the building will be opened up to take in the views of the natural beauty and the riverbank surrounding the riverfront. During the process, a challenge was posed to our residents and later to the city. How can partnerships be established both inside and outside the space to achieve public good and public use? When the opportunity presented itself for the city to play a formal role, the city stepped forward, recognizing public and private enterprise must work together to pursue a larger goal of redeveloping space. I'm pleased the city had the foresight to support the project and recognize the potential that the space and the positive impacts that the surrounding area will have for years to come. And I look forward to someday looking back on this moment to recognize the city had vision at that moment. You see, responsible, forward-thinking land stewardship isn't just about ownership. It's also about partnership. How can our institutions, public, private, and philanthropic, newly forming and existing, partner or even agree to leverage our use of space for the benefit of many? Last month, the city acted in this way by entering an agreement on the sale of the Market Square parking lot. This decision met the project's parking needs and will guarantee income for the generation to come for the city. This is a solid way to support development on the west side of the river without expending city dollars. This is an investment in the Wisconsin River and, more importantly, our community's future. Now, let's talk more about space and place. A great strength of our city is our public parks. The public spaces, our Centralia's Community Center, our public waterfront, the zoo, just to name a few. The beauty of these lands is that they are public in the purest sense. They're ours. They're ours to care for, to plan for, and to use. As I've mentioned, land stewardship is not always about ownership by a single person or entity, but how land is ultimately put to use. Almost a year ago today, I stood before you and made the case for exploring solutions for our aging aquatic facilities. I advocated for the opportunity to invest in the community's quality of life through a model that demonstrates not only fiscal responsibility to the taxpayer and its contributors, but a model that would not only serve this community and others as well. Well, last August, two of our area's most prominent organizations announced their intention to collaborate on the construction and the operation of a new YMCA facility right here in Wisconsin Rapids. Soon after, the City Council renewed its commitment to ensure that public aquatic facilities remain in our community. Afterward, an aquatics ad hoc committee formed consisting of members of the City Council and our Park and Recreation Commission to dig deeper on a potential partnership and collaboration with community partners, like the proposed YMCA, to foster a dialogue with residents and make a recommendation as to what direction we should take. Through these conversations, it became clear. The announced facility has a potential to be just far more than a building. It will serve as a place to nurture the potential of children and families through youth development, while helping to improve the health and well-being of all of our people. An aquatics facility will prioritize a new level of health and wellness for not only current but future residents, as well as a sense of connectedness to our area's recreational offerings. It was recommended that the city continue to pursue a partnership with the YMCA on a public access to the aquatics portion of the facility. The needs of our community have changed, and therefore our thinking and acting must also change. I was thrilled that Aspirus, after announcing its intended acquisition of Riverview, they recognized the important work of our community and is just as committed to improving the overall health of the community, in the addition to ensuring the proposed partnership with the YMCA to serve our community's needs becomes a reality. I'm certain that this is the first of many creative collaborations to support a healthy community. Both at and since last year's address, you've maybe heard me speak of the third space idea. The third space looks to where we spend our time beyond work or home. From this perspective, Wisconsin Rapids has much to be proud of. A robust trail system, a municipal zoo, over 100 acres of city parks, and through our core, a beautiful river. But it's what's in and around those spaces and our natural resources that draws people to them to spend time in them. Last January, I called for a multi-year investment in our public spaces to make our city a more attractive place. Investing in these public spaces and the spaces around them, without question, will spark private investment. I'm pleased work in this area has begun, even as soon as this last Tuesday. Rooted in decades of city planning and work by past administrations, city councils, and citizens, are great visions, oftentimes complementing or even replicating recommendations from the one previous. In dusting off and performing a comprehensive review of these plans, we've repeatedly seen a focus on the downtown and surrounding waterfront area as an area ripe for redevelopment. And for good reasons. This is the low-hanging fruit, as it's often referred. However, as mentioned, when talking about housing, creating demand is key to achieving success in this. By taking features from those plans that are workable and still relevant today, we have a foundation that we can build on. Our plan takes the common sense view that if we aren't investing in ourselves, we can't expect others to invest in us. But investing isn't enough. We also need an ongoing strategy and ongoing discussions with our community. It's time for us as a community to sit down and discuss what the future of our city will look like. By engaging in this dialogue, we create our own possibilities. Yes, we enter unfamiliar and maybe contentious territory, but we all have a part in shaping what our city looks like 5, 10, or even 20 years from now. From the first element of creating a healthier, more livable community flows the second, a healthy government. And this means a government operation organized and energized to serve the needs of you, our residents. Citizens often refer to government as being difficult and sometimes difficult to access and cumbersome to use. Today, while we've made progress, quite frankly, our city's resources are still not as accessible as they could be. Continuing on this path can take us out of the running for a location for home buyers and business growth. The question then becomes, how can we improve access to government information and services for both current and future residents? During the past year, Wisconsin Rapids has taken innovative approaches to making our community healthier by the way we provide the services our residents have come to expect. And to highlight a few, at my first State of the City address in 2013, I spoke of the need to create a city government that is more efficient, streamlined, and more modernized. In talking with city departments on what residents often inquired about, it became clear to me that there were quick wins to provide information available 24/7 to residents on answers for everything from frequently asked questions to planning, development, and reserving recreational activities and facilities. A starting point for us was to introduce a new platform new to us in our city operations, that's GIS, or Geographic Information System, to increase the accuracy in our analysis of data, as well as residents' access to information that's important to them. This technology continues to ability to collect, manage, and distribute information with the strength of visual mapping. GIS can significantly help departmental staff make better decisions while improving the way they deliver services to you. I'm pleased to share that one public-facing benefit of GIS called City Viewer, and if you haven't checked it out, I encourage you to do so. City Viewer provides residents and visitors with easy access to information in the form of maps. Think Google Maps when you're trying to navigate a destination, except for when you're pursuing city business, that destination might be a prospective home buyer looking for a tax bill or permit history. For a business person, it might be proximity to wetlands or a certain underground infrastructure like water or sewer capacity. Or for residents, to pull up a map of city parks to view facilities at each, to map out a bike ride to work or a walking path, and coming soon, historical markers or memorials located at points throughout our city. This is one way that city information will become available 24/7 and in an easy-to-use format, anywhere and any way you choose to access it. In keeping with this philosophy, our administration recognized that there was more that could be done to provide information to budding entrepreneurs and business people about marketplace statistics, community resources, and available incentives. During last year's State of the City address, I pledged to introduce a portal that does just that. Today, I'm proud to formally announce Grow Rapids. When people come to our city for economic development resources, they typically fall in one of two categories, either starting a business or growing a business. Easy to understand. Grow Rapids keeps this in mind by tailoring resources to meet the needs of those two individuals. For example, financial resources such as loans and incentives, licensing and taxation, and advice on what it takes to start or grow their company. And because business doesn't stop, it's available 24/7, 365. As the official gateway for our city's economic and community development efforts, Grow Rapids is a warm and friendly entrance to current and prospective businesses. Not to say a visit to City Hall isn't warm and friendly. While Grow Rapids is just one such way that the city is becoming more business-friendly, at last year's address, I announced a partnership with Google called Get Your Business Online. I'd like to report out on that success and share our continued commitment to increasing national and international awareness for our local businesses. As Wisconsin Rapids continues to make development resources available online, so should our small businesses as well. Being online helps ensure business growth and competitiveness through increased visibility. Last February, shortly after the announcement, we put together a campaign focused on providing materials for our local businesses and building awareness to the initiative. That effort included this commercial recorded and produced by Google at no cost to us. For many of you, this may not be the first time you've seen it, as it did run on our local cable channels. If you could run the commercial, please.
Hello, Wisconsin Rapids. I'm on a mission to strengthen our city by helping every business in Wisconsin Rapids get online. 97% of internet users look for goods and services online, but 58% of businesses don't have a website. Businesses that are online are expected to grow 40% faster and twice as likely to create jobs. That's huge for small businesses and huge for Wisconsin Rapids. So join me and let's get our city's businesses online. Because stronger businesses build a stronger Wisconsin Rapids, and the web can help. Let's go, Wisconsin Rapids.
On TV.
For more
Then last
information,
April, we
join us.
formally kicked off a business development session titled Breakfast Before Business, co-sponsored by Solaris and Media Shower. This breakfast invited area businesses to come and explore what tools are available through the Get Your Business Online program. In all, 40 representatives from area businesses attended the event, asked questions, and left with the tools available to them at no cost for building an online presence. Now, with more Wisconsin Rapids businesses having an online presence, I'm committed to expanding it by helping those who are online have an even broader reach on the internet. This year, a continued partnership with Google called Put Your Business on the Map will greatly increase awareness and visibility for our local businesses, both to residents and visitors locally, while providing a wider reach to capture customers well beyond our city. I encourage businesses that took advantage of the Get Your Business Online program last spring and invite any other businesses that already has an online presence to join us for Let's Put Wisconsin Rapids Businesses on the Map, as we continue working to get every Wisconsin Rapids business online and seen by the world. More details on this initiative will be coming this spring. Up to this point, I've talked about resources available to our residents and business leaders to get information easier. But as we know, information flows in two directions. So what are we doing to help you both communicate more effectively and assist us with improvements within the city? Today, when a resident like yourself might come upon something in the city they'd like us to know about, they might call their alderman, they might phone, visit, or email me, or they might call Ray, our ordinance control officer. Then the complaint is noted. That complaint should get forwarded on, and when it does, there might be a gap in time and has the risk of getting buried amongst other requests. In short, the system is very analog and very inefficient. Along with my staff, we're constantly looking for ways to improve our customer service and communication with the public. As we have put into practice through training the concepts of continuous improvement, we as a city are always looking at ways to increase efficiency when responding to service requests while improving the city's living environment and quality of life along the way. With that goal in mind, the City of Wisconsin Rapids is excited to announce the launch of a new smartphone app called C-Click Fix. C-Click Fix allows residents to report non-emergency situations quickly and easily in real time and submit them to city departments. We've recorded a short video to show you what it's all about.
Wisconsin Rapids has an app that allows anyone to report and track issues anywhere in the area. You can help us find issues that may need repair or the city's attention, like a damaged sidewalk, graffiti, or a pothole. With your smartphone or tablet, just snap a picture, and after a few simple clicks, report the problem to us. Your location is submitted automatically when you submit your report. You can also check on the progress of the report anytime. Download the app from the App Store or our website at wirapids.org, making Wisconsin Rapids a better place, one click at a time.
A very short piece in there was a city crew actually giving the thumbs up, if you caught it, for resolving a problem. So one of the neat pieces of this tool is it actually provides a feedback loop. So people can see the crew, if it's repairing a situation in the city, who actually fixed the problem, or report actually that the problem was fixed. As you can see, through the simple use of a smartphone or simple tablet app, or even the website C-Click Fix, C-Click Fix empowers you and citizens to actively engage with your neighbors and city officials. With the app, residents and the city can work together to raise awareness to the issues from streets and signs, sidewalks, or streetlights, or offer suggestions for improvement. As we know, a healthy government is one that effectively listens to our people and provides residents the opportunity to work with us. That health of our neighborhoods and business districts should reflect your pride in our city. And C-Click Fix is one more way that the city is helping you do just that, while improving your interaction with city staff as you take an active role in strengthening our community. All of the communication opportunities I talked about tonight wouldn't be of much value if, in fact, we didn't have solid infrastructure in place for accessing and delivering them. To that end, our community has much to be proud of. With broadband high-speed internet now an expectation in cities everywhere, our local provider has gone the extra mile, or should I say miles, investing in laying fiber to homes and businesses all across our city. As a result of this commitment, Solaris now offers gigabit internet service to our community. At the time of implementing last year, there were less than 20 cities in all of U.S. that offered residential gigabit service. And for this, we received national recognition, the Smart Rural Community Award from the Rural Broadband Association. This designation identifies our uniqueness. For a city our size, this is a big deal. But why? Well, let's take a look at how it compares against cities much larger in the U.S. and internationally. And if you can't read it, international cities are on the left, cities on the right. We have a faster internet connection to the home than places like New York City, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, just to name a few. Having world-class broadband network in Wisconsin Rapids fosters job and economic growth, dramatically improves access to educational opportunities, impacts healthcare delivery, and improves our quality of life, bolstering our overall city's competitiveness. There is no greater equalizer for individual opportunity than access to broadband, and having all this broadband fiber in the ground is only good for those who can connect or access to it. Today, we're proud to offer citizens in public spaces, like here in the library or in the senior center, but we can do better than that. In talking with residents of all ages, it became apparent that public spaces were important, just like the letter I received from JC in 3rd grade, who's a student at Howe. JC indicated that she wishes that we would have internet and iPads and computers available in our parks. It's amazing how a 3rd grader can have such foresight. She indicated, so we issued a challenge to Solaris and asked them, do you have that fiber running past our parks throughout our city, right? They laid it all across the town, and they did. So to JC's pleasure, they've taken us up on our challenge to offer free Wi-Fi in the scenic overlook that is going to be constructed up near Legion Park across from the courthouse this summer. Very excited about that. Even further, we thought about beyond that small space, where else can we offer public access for Wi-Fi and for folks who don't have a connection at home? Well, we've challenged Solaris and our other provider in town to understand who has a connection at home, who doesn't, and what businesses don't have a connection. Because we recognize if businesses don't have a connection at home, they're probably disconnected from everything we've talked about, but even really from the advantages that are going to give them economic success. So we've challenged them to identify those people in our home that don't have a connection, but even to take it a step further. If it's affordability, how can we make it more affordable for folks to get connected? Because we know if we're preparing today's youth and they don't have a connection at home, they're probably at a disadvantage than the rest of their peers. I'm pleased that they've taken us up on that, and a year from now, we'll be able to share that success. So beyond broadband, we've taken a look at what are the other quality of life elements that make our city unique. And for us, it's taking a look at how can we help those in the private sector bring us the ideas of how can we share this competitive edge with others across the country. So I invite you, after tonight and into the future, to share with us your ideas to improve connection rates not only in our community, but to expand free access to public spaces. So when talking about government services and city information, technology should not be a barrier, but a handshake or a gesture of accommodation to our citizens. However, it's not just the most welcome technological advances that improve the efficiency of our government operations. It's the people, as they're the heart of our operations. One way we've made significant progress in improving our internal operations and ability to perform better is through the Rapid Improvement Program. Last year, I introduced Rapid Improvement as an initiative that emphasizes continuous improvement and coordination to streamline and improve processes internally, which in turn improves the overall experience the public has with government. Is a reflection by 2 of our city employees.
The rapid improvement process has made it possible to take a step back, look at a process, analyze, modify, and ultimately improve it to free up time for other long-awaited tasks. In addition, it has empowered employees to offer potential projects, as well as set the wheels in motion to provide more cost-effective services to city residents.
Personally, the more informed and aware that I am, the more engaged I become, and that is also really a bonus of this program. Being part of a rapid improvement project helped to create a sense of belonging and one of teamwork.
Simply because we've always done things a certain way isn't always a good reason for us to continue to do them that way. So what benefit does this program provide residents? In short, simply more efficient and effective use of tax dollars, more straightforward processes, and improved experiences for our customers, whether they're businesses or residents like you. I'm proud to report that in the short time we've implemented the initiative in the city, we now have over a third of our employees trained in the concepts of continuous process improvement. Regular cross-departmental meetings are taking place where employees from all levels work collaboratively to improve customer satisfaction and reduce waste, both time and money, to be reallocated elsewhere in our operations. Finally, if we're going to measure the health of our city in terms of how we take care of business within the walls of government, we must also look to take the temperature, as it were, externally, of how individual citizens connect with one another and their government. This brings us to the third element that goes into the heart of a healthy city, and that is civic engagement. Civic engagement is about connection between our fellow citizens, while recognizing the much power that these citizens have to influence and make decisions that affect our lives. We realize that people's time is precious. Many people don't have a lot of extra time beyond what is normally spent on everything that's absolutely necessary. Having said that, as your mayor, I urge you to continue to consider how you may give the free gift of your time to the city. The citizen opportunities for civic service are numerous, and I'm sure that you can find at least one that touches on a personal interest or cause that you feel passionate about. To follow up on this call for increased civic engagement, my office over the past year has come together around to engage citizens, concerned citizens, in the areas of interest, as members of the Mayor's Council on Beautification, Sustainability, and Youth. Citizen members of the Mayor's Beautification Council, which formed early last year, took the lead in helping improve our city's physical image. If you could roll the image, please.
We do care and take pride in the appearance of our city. We had 38 baskets along West Grand Avenue and on First Street along the river. This coming year, we plan on having 60 baskets. So we can encourage the engagement of local citizens to take part, along with showing the public in general of central Wisconsin that Wisconsin Rapids does care about the appearance of their city.
Sue Wesley's in the audience. If Sue could please stand, and any other members of the Mayor's Council on Beautification to please stand and be recognized. I know Sue has a request, so find Sue after if you're interested in supporting the initiative. As you heard, they have ambitious plans for this next year. Through efforts like the Flowering Basket Program and the various planting events, the Mayor's Council on Beautification successfully transform areas of our city into bright and colorful exhibits. This year, the momentum for the citizen-led effort continues. Thank you for your ongoing participation to make our city a more beautiful place. In my 2014 State of the City address, I acknowledged my intention to create a Mayor's Council on Sustainability. Over the past number of months, I, along with members of the city staff, have been meeting regularly in preparation for forming this council, to be launched later this month. At our January City Council meeting, City Council took an important step forward toward supporting this resolution by adopting a resolution that set in motion the city's commitment to continued and improved sustainable practices for our community. Please roll the video.
The principles of sustainability are very simple. To meet the social, environmental, and economic needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs.
It is imperative as local government to educate residents and to be more environmentally friendly with our fuel consumption, our recycling programs, our building energy consumption, so we can have a safer environment for future generations.
A true opportunity exists for us to begin examining our practices with a vision of having a positive impact on our city's health and environment, both today and for future generations. This council will work toward measurable improvements in reducing consumptions, expanding reuse and recycling, improving efficiency of buildings and transportation, enhancing community wellness, and preserving our living environment that we all have come to enjoy for us who live here. The Mayor's Youth Council is a newly formed council that gives area youth an opportunity to be civically engaged and participate in efforts, including policy development, service, and recreation. With assistance from our two student observers, Nicholas Kazuki and Cody Woyak, the council was formed with the goal of giving youth a seat at the table, to voice their opinions. It's often said that youth are our future, but what are we doing to actually put them in that position? And we must provide them with a space to help shape our community by giving them a meaningful chance to affect that change. If you could run the video, please.
The Mayor's Youth Council is important to me because it gives me the opportunity to take an active role in our community's improvement efforts. It also allows me to interact with my peers and gives the youth a say in our community's future.
I feel passionate about helping others. In addition to that, I want to give back to the community that has allowed me to become who I am. I also love engaging with new people and helping to give youth a voice within our community.
Experience shows that youth councils are a proven way to get youth more involved in solving local problems and becoming more actively engaged in the community, outside of school time. Last October, we witnessed a fine example of the potential a youth council can have. On a cold and snowy day, a number of area youth from local high schools participated in a tree planting event at Legion Park along the riverfront. Their reflection of the event: when can we do another? Their active participation gives real hope for what we can accomplish when our younger citizens are involved. Are the members of the Mayor's Youth Council, other than the two that were standing here, please connect with folks about their experience on that. Of course, Mayor's Councils are just one such way our citizens can make a difference. I invite you to continue to connect with me and city staff to share your ideas about what you see as the future of our community. As when we work together, the heartbeat of our city, civic participation between our residents, neighbors, and surrounding governments is critical to building a healthier, balanced community for all our people. As was mentioned in the beginning, caring for our city is synonymous as to the way we care for our own individual health, our mental self, or in the case of the city, our economy and the talent, knowledge, and skills that fuel it, our physical self, the natural and built environment that attracts and keeps people here, and our spiritual self, the way we function and care as a community through our civic partnerships and initiatives. The key to a healthy body of citizens is to take a holistic approach, to be investing in our economic health, organizational health, and civic health as a means to achieving greater health and well-being for our city. All are tied to one another. The strength or imbalance of one has an impact on the others. It truly is an exciting time for the Wisconsin Rapids community. It probably goes without saying, I'm a bit bullish about our future. With many developments on the horizon, increasingly investment prospects at our door, and the seeds sown and beginning to sprout, there are numerous reasons to be positive about our future. As you leave tonight and carry on in the weeks and months ahead, I hope you think differently about the overall health and well-being of our city, like you do your own health. And I invite you to be a part of the process by staying in contact with me, my office, via visits, letters, email, or phone. And if you are online, please subscribe to my community updates to stay up to date on the latest developments in our community and the opportunities you may have to help shape our community's future as a more vibrant, more prosperous, and healthy community. Thanks for being here. I understand we'll answer some questions. I think I see people moving around.
This part is that two-way communication.
That's
part?
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
It's important.
Very good. Trains. There are more of them, more often, and longer than ever. What, if anything, can be done about them?
So there are things that can be done. We all know we've lived in this community for a period of time, and it wasn't always this way, right? So there's an opportunity for us to figure out why is it and what is it that's causing the frequency and the length. A couple of things, just real recent. 2 weeks ago, I met with a CN Director of Government Affairs who is actually from Wisconsin. His office is in D.C., but had an opportunity to meet with him and sit him down and say, what are we going to do about the trains? Because lo and behold, the next day, it was a long train and it wasn't fixed, right? So as he tells me, we're working on it. Well, a couple of things, one of which they're building trains on the tracks in our switching yards. And they didn't used to do that because one of the reasons why is because of the increased use of rail, they've needed to have longer trains. Well, compounding the factor is the fact that they don't have enough engineers and conductors to drive the trains, to run them. So what happens? They have to run longer trains. They disrupt communities longer. One thing they're trying to do right now in Blair, Wisconsin, as it was shared with me, is to try to get a switching yard where they're going to be building more trains there as opposed to building them in places like our community. So the answer, while it's not as quick as we'd like it all to be solved, is to remedy the length and the disruption piece. However, I will share, we've begun to just think about to what extent to maybe resurrect past planning about the route of the trains in our community. And I realize it's a long-term solution, it's an expensive solution, but may in fact the benefits of not having to wait for a train, the safety elements that are involved, as well as the disconnect that our community is separated by a blocked train, for us to think about maybe there's some opportunity to consider an additional an extension of that. Because as rail continues to be used and all of that, of course, there's more economic viability to that option of potentially moving and relocating and rerouting. So that's long-term, not committing to anything, but that's something we're just beginning to look at. Hope that answers the question.
Very good.
If anyone's looking for a job and has a high school diploma, they are hiring out of their Stevens Point Depot 30 positions. I just saw a posting. He shared it with me. Obviously, we all know they make pretty good money too.
Can you say more about the housing that you spoke of at the
Sure.
beginning of your presentation?
Thanks for the question. And also thanks for the train question. Trains is one of the probably less glorifying pieces to talk about, but it's still an important issue facing the city. On housing, one of the images we had intended to have up here, if anyone wants a copy of some of the past plans that we indicated on the screen, there are some architectural renderings and some things that indicate what that might look like. But in theory, in concept, it's multi-story. It's mixed use. So if you travel to, as close as Stevens Point, maybe they've got some existing architectural buildings that housing has been made to fit in the upper levels, and obviously retail or restaurant or service business below. But places like Madison or Green Bay, the one example that I personally like a lot, is on the waterfront in Green Bay, where they have Hagemeister Park, if anyone has indulged in a beer or maybe food there. But it's multi-story. You take advantage of views of the river, and it's market rate housing. Some of the housing, actually a development that came to the city last summer was on the corner of A Street and Whitrock. And if you recall, they were not doing market rate housing entirely. They were having some influx of some low-income housing as well. But one of their housing study indicated that there is an increasingly demand for our new housing in our community. Our housing stock is aging. If we're trying to attract or even retain folks that don't want to have a yard and have all the picket fence and all that goes into owning a home, people are looking for alternatives, and we're very much largely in the single-family home market here, other than there's some multifamily stuff, but it's not in the core of the community where you can avoid having a car maybe, or you can walk to work, or you can walk to the grocery store, or you can walk down the street or to the park and not have to get in your car. So that's the vision. It's taking a look at what spaces in those downtown plans indicate as ripe for redevelopment, all of which indicate that housing needs to be a component of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if that didn't answer the question, I'd be more than willing to expound on it further at some point.
Governor Walker just last night gave his budget report. How will the governor's budget affect our city, directly or indirectly?
That's a great question. Well, I'll be completely honest. I was holding my breath. And when I saw the cuts that were coming to the UW system and others, I was a bit concerned that was the big headline story, and there might still be some things that would affect us locally as cities. The good news is there were no proposed shared revenue cuts in his budget, but as we know, there's politics, and politics will run its course by the time the official budget is passed sometime in the coming months. So I think we need to watch the process very closely, but thankfully there were no cuts to cities, which will allow us to continue to provide the services at the level that we budgeted for through the next year, and obviously it's a biennium budget, so hopefully the legislature will agree that cities have been beaten up enough and have done enough, as you've heard through rapid improvement and all these other things. You know, we've left no stone unturned to try to find additional dollars to do what we do. And of course, we all know our costs go up every year, and so do the city's costs, and so do the government, state government, everything else. So very pleased that there weren't any cuts to local municipalities. I can't say the same for our friends at the UW system or technical college system, though.
Next question. Actually, it's multifaceted. And there are some abbreviations in here, so maybe you want to explain some of those.
Sure.
You have mentioned your business experience on many occasions. Please tell us how you used this background to give $20,000 to REGI.
Reggie. Mm-hmm.
Reggie. Did you analyze, I think it's ROI.
Return on investment, sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Is that what it
that
is?
Was that
okay, I wasn't sure about that first letter. If so, when will the city see that investment returned? Mm-hmm. Or did you view this as a grant with no expectation of return on investment?
Yeah, great question. So I'll address maybe a little bit for the person who asks the question, maybe has some more knowledge than maybe others in the room. So REGI is the Regional Economic Growth Initiative, and it's a program that was started within the business members of the business community as well as local governments. Encourage Community Foundation as part of an extension of their workforce work was also involved. It got its start a little over 2 years ago, maybe closer to probably 3 actually this spring. So it's a consortium. I'm no longer a board member. The city used to have a board member. The elected official was a board member. Adam from our Planning and Economic Development office is on the board. And so what they've done, the initiative from the beginning was realizing that our economic development efforts as a region, so thinking not just Wisconsin Rapids specific for a moment, but thinking regionally, so the towns and villages around us, that all of them could be contributing to an economic development strategy. So the business community is being asked to finance that initiative going forward. The vision from the beginning was to hire a deal maker, an economic developer, to be able to help execute and pull together deals that ultimately would turn into projects within the city, new development, business opportunities, etc. So the city was a funder. I think it was indicated about $20,000. That's accurate. One time, we didn't fund it again. There was an expectation that it would be an annual ask, but frankly, the city has not been asked for additional contribution. The county was also a funder, as the county funds Marshfield's economic development efforts. So there was a question of parity. Does the county also support Southwood County? So they did, and they also funded it actually larger than the city's contribution. So I believe the municipal contribution was a total of $50,000. The budget for 3 years was about $200,000, and of course the municipal dollars were a part of that. So the question was related to what was my analysis? Why did the city council ultimately support that recommendation that I put forth and the members of the REGI initiative did? Primarily because we recognize that the strategy that we're using today, just as Wisconsin Rapids, doesn't help the people necessarily directly in Nakusa. And we need to be able to have a regional strategy. So in addition to what we're doing to drive economic development success in Rapids, there needs to be a more regional discussion. And this isn't completely unique to Wisconsin Rapids. There's many examples, even in north central Wisconsin, where initiatives like this exist. So in terms of return on investment, will there be a dollar for dollar return on the investment that was put in? I don't know how you would measure that beyond maybe property tax, job creation, investment, if you're able to leverage investment. But let me tell you one thing that was a return on our investment that I wouldn't talk about here because it is pretty wonky, and that is the fact that they're performing an infrastructure study, and that contribution by the city leveraged a state grant for $75,000 to invest in an infrastructure assessment here, not only in the city, in Buren and Nakusa and Port Edwards and Grand Rapids and et cetera, Rudolph, and looked at why aren't we as competitive, or are we as competitive in the area of our wastewater, in the area of our water, in the area of our electrical grid, and if we are, then why aren't we marketing that success? It's the same element that I talked about with broadband, and they did look at broadband as well. I would include that. So this spring, March, I believe, is the timeline for them to issue their report. So the person asked the question, I would love to make sure they're connected with this as it goes forward, because they'll be able to see directly what the $20,000 was able to leverage on the state level and then ultimately produce in a report. Now, a report, right, is one thing. It takes us as city leaders and other governmental leaders to act on the recommendations, ultimately to do something with it. So I believe the question was around ROI, and I believe I addressed that with the leverage of the state investment. And it was not a grant. There certainly were expectations that they would come back to us and to the county. I know the county board is also talking about this right now. What were and what are the return on the investment? The hard part with economic development, as everyone will tell you and share that's close into the field, is it's hard to translate an hour here and the return over there. Because it is so much about relationships and investment of time. So I hope that answers the question. If it doesn't, please grab me and I will be happy to answer deeper questions on that.
Thank you. Last question. Is that correct? Last question? Any others? Do you think we have too much government? And if so, what would you recommend for cuts?
Wow, that's a big question. I'll speak from local government. So what I think government needs to continue to do, and by nature of the machine of government, it doesn't happen often enough, and that is just an ongoing review of what's relevant. I'll use an example. The city council voted to eliminate our elected treasurer position not that long ago, the end of last year. Dave Batten, recognize him, he's going to be retiring mid-year. And that was a case of not so much restructuring as it is restructuring, but about, well, what makes the most sense for government? So oftentimes we have a structure that works in certain environments, let's say pre-technology or pre the telephone, whatever. Of course, our city charter has been written, a long time ago and has been updated since incrementally, but as it relates to government and that's kind of a size of government question, it's a constant ongoing review. I think from my perspective, that's kind of how I administer is, in fact, that's our policy. If a position gets vacated for a particular reason, it has to come to me to be reviewed for a restructuring opportunity or elimination, maybe, that's a possibility. But maybe there's those resources need to be allocated somewhere else. So the point is, there should be incentives to get government thinking this way. Oftentimes political agendas get in the way, and that doesn't happen. So in terms of what cuts would I make, I struggle with Madison or somebody, big government, telling the city how to run its show, and I think that's something that they've delivered cuts and forced the hand. Well, oftentimes that results in poor decision making because you don't have a lot of time to analyze things. So if you realize you've got to cut this much from your budget, you oftentimes have to cut personnel, and you don't get a chance to review those decisions before they're handed down to you. So I hope, again, that answers the question, do I think we have too much government? One thing I think we have that I would offer is I think we have too many factions of local government in particular, and that's just it's the Wisconsin way to some extent. Not a lot of states have cities, towns, villages, counties, the number of factions, and I think that by nature creates some inefficiency. I think here we've got some examples of how we've been able to work across municipal boundaries to share staff, so that way they don't need to have the Village of Port Edwards, for example, long-standing practice is we provide their inspection services. Well, their budgets don't necessarily allow them to have a full-time person like we do, and so we're able to share hours and get reimbursed for that service, so they don't have the carrying cost of doing that. Now, obviously, we get reimbursed and made whole for that time, but that's one thing I think there is opportunity to do, is to look at to what extent the powers of cities, towns, and villages are really the same in opportunities to get the legislature to recognize that cities are the economic engines. Towns don't necessarily promote economic success like cities do, because cities have the infrastructure, the water, the sewer, the electric, everything else that comes along with it, the workforce. So that's the answer to that question. Are there others? That's it.
Very good.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you again, our honorable mayor, and thank you to all of you who attended tonight, and our city department heads and employees and alderpersons. And thank you again for the third annual State of the City. Good night, everybody.